Hello, and welcome to the Grow Patiently podcast, the podcast where we speak with various healthcare leaders to find out all the wonderful things they're doing in the industry, to learn about how they got where they are and how they're going to get where they're going. Today, I'm really, really excited because I'm here with Andy, and we're going to learn all about his journey into a massively growing group of dental clinics and all of his sort of parts along his journey to get there. So, welcome, Andy. Do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, look, great to be on. Thanks, Hugo. My name's Andy Southwood. I'm the ops director for a group of dental practices in the UK called Tooth Club. Been here for nearly 2 years. We've got 18 practices across southeast of the UK, or a little bit further. And yeah, growing as you say. So and the challenges that go with it.
Yeah, love it. Well, that's what we're going to dive into. Before we start, I do usually like to ask a question about kind of where you're based, because often I speak with people in the US and I talk about, oh, I want to do this podcast tour one day where I go and visit. But I was thinking something slightly different for you. And I was thinking out of all of your locations, because obviously we're both from the UK, and it's actually kind of a small place, really, if you're not from here. But yeah, of all the locations that you're in, which one is like your favorite town? Which one do you think, oh yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back there? And why is that?
Yeah, I mean, look, good question. I mean, obviously they're all great because that's why we're there. But I think Bury St Edmunds it's just a really nice town. I think I've ended up there 3 times for a job, and each time I get back there and think it's a really beautiful town. But actually, we opened in Stratford upon Avon last year, and there's something quite nice about the kind of love people have for Shakespeare, the statue, how many tourists are there. So I'll go Stratford just because to be a bit different. But Stratford upon Avon, not Stratford, London. So yeah.
Yeah, very different. Yeah. I've still not been to Stratford upon Avon. Someone said I should really go and do the Shakespeare stuff. Is it worth it?
I don't know, you can see his original house. You can see a bit about it. My kids didn't seem too bothered when I took them there. So, yeah, look, it's not, yeah, it's a really beautiful town. There's a lot to sort of wander around and see. So, yeah, it's
Yeah.
good. And you can
Right.
get your teeth done with us as well.
Well, yeah, exactly. There you go. Well, let's dive into it then. So, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about your journey into healthcare and then eventually where you are now in Tooth Club? I know you've kind of gone through the operations route, and I always think it's really interesting for people who are actual kind of healthcare practitioners to see people who are rising up the ranks who've come from something slightly different because they bring a different energy.
Yeah, cool. I mean, you have to cut me off if I get either boring or just keep talking. So, I knew that I loved working with people and customers, I guess, right? Because it wasn't patients at the time. So I ended up in retail for the first 10 years of what I did in operations, managing single sites of a retailer that's no longer there, but will be fond to a few UK listeners, I guess, in terms of it being Woolworths. I went from there, worked on Oxford Street for a while, which again, someone visiting the UK definitely should go to. Worked on Oxford Street for a while for a card retailer, and then became an area manager for them, and then moved into finance and kind of a well, I say finance, a different side of finance in terms of short-term loans and pawnbroking with the business called Money Shop. Did a short stint with Disney, which I guess everyone's heard of, Disney Retail. Again in Stratford Westfield, so not Stratford upon Avon, Stratford, London. Opened their store there, and then went to Travelodge, did hotels, hospitality, so still no healthcare, I will add. So I did hotels for 7 years, working across the southeast. Um, and then went into the charity sector, which was they were so when I worked for the RSPCA, went and worked with the veterinary teams and the hospitals there, and they were specifically looking for someone to come in with an operational background to look at health and safety, to look at how they operated, to bring in systems and processes and make them make them work effectively. And then I got to work with clinicians, and I got to work in the healthcare environment, and I learned what autoclaves were and all these different things that I'd never seen, and got to work with nurses and realised what a fantastic role nurses are across all sectors, right? And how much work they do to get their qualifications and how important they are to everything that they did. And then after 3 years there, I came across to where I am now at Tooth Club, and came in here as ops director and got to work with doctors doing a different thing, but probably a lot of similarities in terms of like the reason they ended up working as they do, and they studied hard and many years to get to where they did. So yeah, but that's how I ended up in healthcare.
Love it. What a story. I don't think that went on too long at all.
Good. Okay. Cool.
So, what about for people who maybe are, owners of a small clinic and they don't really have an operations manager, for example? They might have some people who are operationally minded and they sort of hope that they'll bring some aspects of that to the wider clinic. Can you kind of explain what you really bring to the group from your role to sort of help them thrive?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think when you've got two or three, or single practice, or you're looking to a second one, and I've spoken to a couple of business owners where they're looking to make that step. Um, you want a practice manager that you can potentially rely on that can step into a second world and take on two sites and maybe put a bit of infrastructure beneath them. In terms of, I guess, what I bring, and there's days that are busy, and I question that I'm bringing it, but the owner, the CEO assures me I am is kind of a an element of stability and I guess operational calm because it doesn't always go right. An element of bringing the experience of what some big corporates do and how they do it and making sure that we're kind of working towards that, but realizing that it's not scalable. Um, Looking for small controls that we can put in place to keep spending track or to keep consistency. And I think ultimately, if anyone's looking to grow, I guess they want to replicate what they've done multiple times. So if they've done it once, they want the second one to look the same and run the same. So trying to put some of that in place, so that I guess the beauty of our business, and I'm not taking credit for this, but you could probably drop our dentist in any of our 18 sites and it'd feel the same. We'd have the same setup in the drawers and where the stock was. We'd have the same chair. We'd have the same layout. And they could work somewhere and not really feel the difference. Maybe a different monitor, maybe a different mouse, certainly a different team, but they'd feel the same, and that's really important. So I think that's a big part of my role. And then people, right? I mean, if you can keep a team happy, then you're halfway to success. So I guess that kind of element of hopefully the time I invest does that, and where it doesn't, then we learn, right? And we learn every single day. So.
Well, you're obviously very modest, but yeah, I think you can take some credit for those areas, surely.
Oh, well, the layout. I guess the consistency, yes. In terms of the decisions around how the business is, I'd give Canal that credit, and that's his vision. I think in terms of how the practice managers think and behave and work towards their teams, and what their days look like and where they focus their time, then I definitely feel that that's something I've impacted and continue to because I think it's really important. Because you can have multiple personalities and people that want to do something different and different passions, but the outcome needs to be that the teams experience the same and they deliver the same patient experience every single time, no matter where they are. So that's the critical part.
Mm. What do you think you took from your previous roles that have really had a big impact on the role that you now have?
I mean, I think there's two separate bits there. Operationally, I think having probably seen or done it all at some point, or experienced it, or seen a response, it really helps me in terms of bringing that to life. I think what as I've got, I say older, I don't like using that phrase on myself, but as I've got older, I think I'm able to look back and realize when the response was right and when it wasn't, and when sometimes it was just how I experienced it. So therefore, making sure that we're making the right decisions and looking at it from a business point of view. I think having worked at most levels, I can try and constantly keep myself in check of what annoyed me and not repeat it. Because things haven't changed. But then from a healthcare point of view, I think certainly when I worked with veterinarians, I was so amazed by their like spiritual love for what they did. So I think bringing that here and realizing that our dentists, that doctors take such pride, and they should. I mean, they really should. Such pride in the work that they do, that it's really important to recognize that because it's not easy. Um, and I think that the rare times in both the last job and this that we've had complaints, like realizing how personal that feels to the clinician or the veterinarian at and how much that weighs on their mind and the need to support them through that, I think is something I probably brought into here. I mean, luckily we don't have that, and that's not me trying to advertise our business. In reality we don't, which is great, and we've got a lot of controls in place. But I think it's something that's always sort of weighs on my mind that if a nurse or a doctor makes a mistake, kind of how they're feeling behind that. So
Yeah, I think it's so important to have all the systems in place so that then doctors can do the work that they want to do because that's what they're really, really focused on. And so you played such an important role in facilitating that passion to continue to grow. I wanted to ask you, what's like the primary thing? Let's say you're going to get a new clinic, which I know that regularly you are doing. You can maybe talk us through what your plan is there. But when you're starting a new one, what are you sort of first looking for in terms of maybe, I don't know, first of all, how involved are you in kind of getting a new location? That might be interesting. But then the other part I was going to say, which surely you are involved in, is once you get that new location, what are you looking to put that stamp on straight away and to make sure that these things are in place from the very beginning?
yeah, yeah, a couple of bits in there. So I mean, our expansion, there's been cities or towns that we just want to be in, and we've kind of hunted for. And then there's areas that we know we want to get to. I mean, I think it's important to record. Like, last year was the year that we stepped into. So we went to Sutton Coldfield in Birmingham, we went to Stratford upon Avon, and they were further away than we'd been. And I think the big shock for us when we opened was we'd naively maybe not realised that nobody there knew who we were. Because we work here, right? So we understand who we are. We're in Essex. There's a friend of a friend that might have known of us, and we've expanded outwards in a sort of gradual step. So it's not been a huge shock when we've appeared 20 miles from a previous site. That jump meant that we were in new markets, and I think there was a I mean, maybe it was quite a cute naivety, but there was a bit of a naivety that we just open up and people go, "Oh, great, it's these guys. Yeah, I want to use them," and they didn't, and we needed to work harder. So I think there's a few things that play out really of what our focus is. One, we want every patient who comes through those doors to leave incredibly happy. I mean, every time, but for the first 6 months, it's even more important. They are going to be our marketeers. They're going to tell their friends and family about the experience they've had. Um, that needs to reflect in our Google reviews. So it's really important for us to take off sort of and get positive reviews and if we've got it wrong, like own it and learn from it and make sure that we're kind of aware of that. And then I think probably the experience I'd have is that once we get people through the door and they realise that it is a great environment and it feels what they're hoping for, it kind of goes from there. And we'll often get more people doing cosmetic work initially, and then a follow up of people telling friends and family and getting general dentistry and that growth from it. But it's just giving people the confidence that they're spending money on their own health, on their own. They're gonna. It's invasive work, right? So you've really got to give them the confidence that what they're doing is going to go well, and a really nice team, a warm environment, highly competent dentists. Those things are just so key to that opening that it's really important we get that right.
Yeah, really interesting because I'm just trying to imagine if I'm a listener and I own a clinic and I'm maybe getting a second one, what would I most want to do? And I was thinking, I wonder if you could maybe give us a sort of 2 or 3 step, and it doesn't have to be three, but a couple of steps that you would do. Let's say you just get plonked into someone else's clinic and they say, yeah, can you just like spend a day and do a review and like let us know what are we missing? What should we improve on? What would be like the first 3 things that you would sort of look at just to see whether those things are working as they should?
I mean, I guess historically, I mean, we're all our sites are on the high street, so a lot of people's first impressions for us are what they see as they walk up. And as a healthcare provider, it's got to be clean, it's got to be inviting, it's got to be bright. We purposely make our practices, they're bright, they're flowery, they're pink, they've got a theme. So I think that's really important. But I would say for a lot of businesses, that first experience of a company is via the website. So it's kind of what are they seeing and feeling, what message are they getting from there? And then it's who they meet. From I guess from anywhere I've worked, good people can make anything work and happen. And if I look at all of our practices, the most successful, they've got fantastic teams, and it just really works for us. So I think that the next stage would always be who's the patient seeing, who's the customer seeing when they come through the door, what are they saying, are they matching the brand, are they saying what you'd want them to say? Um, I mean, like, those two things are just critical. And then I suppose there's an element of price, but I think that's an easy excuse, right? I think it's an easy excuse to say, oh, we're a bit expensive or people aren't interested because it's probably one of those two other things that aren't quite there. And we tend to find when we get that right, then it really works. But yeah, hard to say, right? I mean, it's kind of we all look for different things. You know, something that might really bother me, you know, just might not register for someone else. But I do think if you're going to go into a healthcare environment, it's got to feel clean. It's got to feel right.
Well, I was going to say, what does really bother you?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, isn't it? Because you know, I work. I think it's sometimes for me personally, it's like what sector I'm in. So I was in hotels for 7 years. For 7 years, I was the most observant person of any bed that wasn't made right, or any sheet that wasn't good, or any curtain that let the light in. Um, I also never slept in my own hotels because I was constantly aware of any noise and would it wake someone else up because I wanted people to have good experience. I think like now, you know, what do I notice when we go into our sites? Our teams. But it's as soon as you work somewhere, like you know, I really care about all of our teams, right? So when I go in, I it's easy to forget I take the patient hat off and I put the me hat on, and I'm like, oh, how are you? And suddenly it's actually standing back and observing. And what really bothers me is when we don't give good service. That really bothers me, right? People are paying to have treatment. People are coming. People are choosing to use us. And if we don't give good service, then we're failing. It's really because it's the forgivable aspect, right? If you think of any experience you have in your life, bad meal, bad problem, bad experience anywhere, if somebody's good and manages it well, you forgive them. Yeah, you forgive the brand, you give them another go, and I just think that's critical.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's pretty worrying that there are businesses out there who don't feel like that's a primary thing, but it's like you're selling something, it's got to be good, you know, and you've got to do it the best you can, and then, you know, be prepared to kind of support if things are not as good as you'd like.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
let's talk about Tooth Club. Um, Big sort of rise, and no doubt big plans on the horizon. What are you all what are you planning in terms of like your growth? How are you doing that? What kind of levers are you pulling?
Yeah, so I mean, it opened, you know, it's just over 5 years old. You know, our CEO opened it and just wanted to create the dental environment that he never had as a kid, which was, and I'm just slightly older, which rattles me, but you know, we had the same experience growing up. We'd go to the dentist, there was a broken toy, you know, it was cold, it was uninviting, the receptionist didn't want to see a child in there, and we both had the same experience. I think. I was more chill about it. I think it really got to him. But like you know that was where Two Club was born. So we've got 18 sites now. We've got number 19 Leicester opens in about 6 weeks. So our builders on site, and that's happening as we speak. So watch this space. Excited for that one. I think that's a good market for us. Coming back down the country a little bit. Um, but yeah, that should go well. And then look, we'd like to you know, we'd like to open another couple this year and then carry on the expansion into next year. And I think I think we can do it. I really do. I think we've got a model that we can kind of replicate. But there's so many growing pains within that, right? You know, all your suppliers, and we've got brilliant suppliers, but suddenly that you're asking them to be in three places at once. You know, suddenly three things are breaking, and they've got a small team, or you're asking, you know, your really loyal supplier that's followed you around the country to suddenly travel an extra 100 miles. And then when the cost is higher, it's not in the model. So it's yeah, there's a lot of challenge with that, and I think that's what's gonna you know, we've got solutions for most of it, and I think everyone we work with wants to stay working with us. But we'll come up against some challenge with that. But yeah, plan to grow, right? You know, I would like to see us get to 50 practices in the next 3 years. I would love to see that, if not sooner, and then go from there. But yeah,
You got to have the big goals. You got to go for it.
yeah, that's it, right? And I think you know, it's easy to get caught up in numbers. So you know, will all 50 be perfect? We hope so, right? We'll do our research, we'll do our work, um, but we're not going to open for the sake of it and just add a number to say, right, we've got there. It's got to be the right practice, it's got to be the right location. And you know, I live in Chelmsford. We looked at the site there. We looked at maybe 7 or 8 sites before we even considered the one we're in, and they all might have worked, but they weren't quite right. And we held back, and I think it was the right thing to do on all of them. And where we are now is fantastic, but it took some patience, and like I'm glad we did it especially as it is my hometown. So it feels that much more personal. But yeah, you know, yeah,
You have
more
to
to,
get that one right.
Yeah,
Oh, you got to get
exactly.
them all
Yeah,
out.
yeah. I know. Yeah, no, look, it was nice, right? I had my kids down on the opening day. My mum's been in to see it. It's important that you get that right. I can't be there going, oh, I shouldn't have done this, or we
Yeah.
got that wrong. So yeah, it's pretty critical.
What about within your own career? What have been like some of the biggest challenges? And you could talk about it within Tooth Club as well if you want. No problem at all. But what are the things that you've sort of felt like you really had to overcome to get to where you are?
I mean, countless roles that I didn't get right. In previous lives, really feeling that I'd put the work in. Probably looking back, could see some behaviours that weren't right, or some, certainly some candidates that were much stronger. But in the time, it hurts. And a few times it really hurts, right? You get that sight for that internal role. I think you know having closed down one business and made everyone redundant, that leaves its learnings and its scars because you really care for the people. But also seeing growth, right? I mean, flip it around, that opening new sites is hard everywhere I've been, and we've opened new sites nearly in every role I've had. It's really hard because it doesn't matter what you do. You hire new teams, they don't all want to be there, they don't all sign up to the culture, they haven't got the work ethic. They tell you on the day before it's due to open that they've found something else. They go AWOL. You can't buy loyalty, right? It's really that's mega difficult. Working in Stratford Westfield in the year up to the Olympics was one of the most obscure, crazy experiences I think I ever had. Of just it was like the whole of London had never seen a shop, and they all came to Westfield. And I think Boxing Day 2011, I'm scarred from just not being able to get out the shopping centre because it was that busy. It was
That's
unbelievable.
crazy. All because of the Olympics, people wanted to go to Westfield.
Well, I think it was just Stratford, right? I mean, Stratford is unrecognisable. So it kind of Westfield had gone in, and people suddenly had a destination to go to. They had money burning holes in their pockets, and in they came. But it was just crazy, right? So yeah,
I
yeah,
feel like it's crazy every time I go there. The other day I was in like West London. I said, "Oh, do you have this in stock?" And they said, "No, no, but you could nip over to Stratford." I thought, um, I'm not
yeah.
nipping over
I'm
there.
rivals. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, okay, cool. And oh, what was I going to ask? So yeah, some people maybe going down the operational route within their practices or within their businesses. I suppose what kind of things could they do to make sure that they shine within their businesses and get to kind of position that you've got to?
I mean, look, you can't do it on your own. I think obviously hiring a great team, but I also think there's a huge amount of reward in building a team and investing in people. And look after them. I mean, I can't, for me, that's just the number one rule of looking after the team, hearing what they're saying. They're not always right, but making sure people get that feedback if they're not and understand it. Love what you do. Operations is always it never quite stops. So kind of accept that, but build structure around it, right? You don't have to work 24/7. You don't have to do everything yourself, and just because you think there's someone in your team that probably really wants to do it. Someone in my team recently, they actually outwardly put their hands up for something that I was just so glad to see go. And they were excited by it, right? What a perfect combination that they're excitedly taking on something that I've seen as a somewhat of a chore. And they're going to be miles better than me, like no comparison. So it's just a win all the way. And I think that's that kind of key piece. Um, and just, yeah, remember to enjoy it as well, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
true. It's important to enjoy it. So many things pop up in my head when you just said all that. I mean, first of all, I was thinking about teamwork and like the team. One of the things I try to do is figure out what it is that they are trying to achieve in their own lives. Because in 2026, no one's really like coming to sign up at Grow Patiently, for example, then look, which is my company, and looking to work there until they're like 70. It's just really rare. Um, so I try and figure out where do you want to go next? What's like your whole story that you're trying to create? And how can I make sure that the step that you're on with me is really good for me and for you to get you wherever you want to go? Um, and yeah, I thought that was really interesting. But then what was I
yeah,
going to say?
I mean,
No,
it
go
is
on. Sorry.
right. Well, no, it is. I think you're right, and I think people, of course, it's sad when good people move on, but also it should be excited for them, right? If the step is a good step, then it's like, well, look, thanks for what you've done. Shame it wasn't longer, but excited that they're going to move on because, as you say, like my dad worked 45 years in the same company, right? That just no one does it. I mean, like
It
it
just
just isn't
doesn't
a thing,
happen.
right? Not at all. He left school, went off and did it, and retired in the same employer, and you just think nobody does that now, right? And so it's yeah.
It's a totally different world. Yeah, it's very interesting. The other thing you were saying about, I suppose, is delegation, which is like not the most exciting of topics, but it is interesting how you cling on to these things and you think, I've got to keep doing it and grind it out, even though I really don't like it. But then, surprise, surprise, there's actually someone in the team who wants to do it and is definitely going to do it better than you. And but partly because they want to do it. You just
Yeah,
got to let go.
yeah, and they're proud to do it, right? It's like they're proud because they're taking that step, whatever step it might be, and it's they want to do it. They feel that might be a practice manager who does the cashing up every night because no one else can have the safe key. Well, why not? You know, get get a different safe, get a drop safe, let them count the money, like let them do it. They take responsibility, like kind of let
Mhm.
people have that step, um, and all the way up to every task. It's kind of. Let people do it, but don't just abandon them, right? Let them do it, come back, see how it's going. And I think what's the saying? You delegate delegate the task, but you can't delegate the accountability, right? Like it's still on me. So, and I think that's the other thing is have their back if it goes wrong. Like it's really important to have their back, even if privately you're like, "Gosh, you let me down." Publicly, like back them until the end of the world to say, "Yeah, no, they've done nothing wrong. I don't know what's happened there. Yeah, they're a great employee." If you've got to take them aside afterwards and go, "Look, I've got your back, but man."
That
What's
was
going
rubbish.
on? Yeah, exactly. But like was it publicly defend and privately criticize or whatever it is. But I think there's these cliches or these sayings exist for a reason. So
Yeah, for definite. Well, look, let me ask you this. This is probably going to be my final question I like to ask people, which is that imagine, right, if you could just dip back to like 20-year-old Andy or maybe even 18-year-old Andy and just click of the finger and you're there, you bump into him in the street and you can just give him this one piece of advice. Career advice, though. You can't tell him invest in Bitcoin or like set up YouTube or whatever. I've had that one. But then as soon as you said it, bang, you're back here. What do you say to
I mean, aside from stop eating so much, because I did like my food at 20 and 18 and 25.
him?
You know what? I think at 20 I had, or maybe around 20 I had a bit of a dip actually, because I kind of had friends who'd gone off to university and they were returning. And I had this sort of worry that I hadn't chosen the right path. So I think actually I'm going to be really motivational to myself and say, keep going, you'll be all right. And I think honestly that would be all right for me. I think because I wouldn't change any of what I've done. I wouldn't. I don't think. I think everywhere I've worked has added something really positive. Um, so yeah, yeah, put down the burger and you'll be all right. I think might have been it.
Put down the burger and you'll be all right. I
Yeah, you
love it.
don't need the thick sliced buttered toast each morning. You'll be okay. So yeah,
Well, you know what? It goes back to what you said about having lots of different roles compared to someone like parking in a job till 45. You do learn a lot. I mean, I was a chef, not a particularly good one, briefly, and I was a teacher in secondary school history. And now I do, healthcare marketing and entrepreneurial stuff. And it's like all of those things come together. Chefing taught me that there are worlds out there that are totally insane and that are really hard work
yeah,
on your hands. And then yeah, all things, they just all like a part of the fabric of your working self. Well,
yeah.
listen, Andy, oh, go on. What were you going
No,
to
I was going
say?
to say you're right. They all shape who we are, right? And good experiences, bad experiences, they shape who we are. And I think if I look at my team, I've got some vast experience from people that know dental better than I ever could to people that have come in and already learned know it better than I do, but are still fantastic with what they've learned. And I just think that makes it so great because you've just got so many opinions and ways of solving problems when they arise. So, but yeah.
Mm. Well, listen, Andy, thank you so much for coming today and chatting to us and sharing all of your experience. I love to hear it. To all the listeners, thank you so much for listening, as always. If you have experienced one thing that you've enjoyed in the podcast, if you just learned something, you chuckled once, or something just got you thinking a little bit, then you have to pay the tax, which I forgot to mention at the top. But the tax is that you just have to tell one other person about this podcast. That's it. You don't charge or anything like that. So if you have taken one piece, then please do that. Other than that, Andy, once again, I want to say a massive thank you to you. Is there anything that people can do if they, want to reach out, for example, or if they want to learn more about you, or if they want to learn more about Tooth Club? What can they do? Can they fire you a question? Can they follow something online?
Yeah, look, thanks, Hugo. Firstly, thanks for having me on the podcast. It's been great. I really enjoyed talking about me, which is strange because it's not something I naturally enjoy, but you've done it well. Look, hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm there, Andy Southwood, and I have got a few unread messages, but I am going to get through them. So yeah, look, love to answer questions. If somebody thinks there's something I can help with, or to talk, or whatever, then I'd love to chat. So yeah, hit me up.
Nice one, Andy. Well, thank you so much. Have a great day. And
No
thank
worries.
you, everyone else. All the best.